All right, let's dive in. We're about to investigate one of the most profound, most personal questions anyone can ever ask. It's a mystery so deep, it's basically the final frontier of what we understand about, well, ourselves and the universe. I mean, think about it right now. It's not just that your eyes are seeing and your ears are hearing. The real puzzle is that inner, private movie playing in your head. There is an experience of being you. So, why? How on earth does a collection of cells in your brain produce this rich, subjective world? You know, that single question, it puts consciousness right up there with the biggest puzzles in all of science. Seriously, we've mapped the human genome, we've peered back to the dawn of time, but understanding our own awareness, well, that's still one of science's greatest and, let's be honest, most personal challenges. To really get to the bottom of this, we're going to treat it like a detective case. And the very first step in any investigation is to define the crime, or in this situation, the central problem that has stumped thinkers for centuries. The philosopher David Chalmers gave this its famous name, the hard problem. And that is the absolute core of our case. We're not just asking how the brain works, the mechanics of it all. We're asking why its workings are accompanied by feeling, by experience, by what it's actually like to be you. And this distinction right here, it's absolutely crucial. The so-called easy problems on the left, things like how we process information or focus our attention, they're really just problems of mechanism. And neuroscience is getting really, really good at explaining them. But the hard problem on the right, that's about experience itself. Why doesn't all this complicated brain activity just happen in the dark with no inner feeling at all? Okay, so let's head to the scene of the crime, so to speak, and see what clues the brain itself can give us. What have our investigators, the neuroscientists, managed to uncover so far? So using amazing tools like fMRIs, scientists have found what they call neural correlates of consciousness. It's a fancy way of saying they can see specific parts of the brain, like the visual cortex, light up when we have a particular experience. They've definitely found a link, a correlation. But as any good detective will tell you, correlation is not causation. For instance, we can actually pinpoint the exact pattern of electrical and chemical signals that corresponds to you seeing the color red. We can map it, we can measure it, and we can watch it happen in real time. It's a physical, observable fact. And boom, there it is, the absolute heart of the entire mystery. There is nothing in the physics or chemistry of those neurons, how fast they fire, what chemicals they exchange, that logically explains why it should generate the subjective feeling of redness. Why red? Why not green? Or the sound of a bell? Or for that matter, why not nothing at all? This massive chasm actually has a name, the explanatory gap. It's the critical piece of missing evidence in our investigation. We've got the physical brain processes on one side of the canyon and our subjective inner world on the other. And right now, we have no solid scientific bridge to get us from one side to the other. All right, so we've examined the evidence, we've identified the core mystery. Now it's time to line up the primary suspects, the main theories that are trying to solve this case and finally bridge that gap. So here's a quick look at our lineup. And what's wild is that each of these theories comes at the problem from a completely different angle. One's all about information structure, another's about the brain's architecture, and the third, it pretty much rethinks the nature of reality itself. First up for interrogation is a big one, integrated information theory, or just IIT for short. This is probably one of the most prominent and most debated theories in the field today. So IIT basically says that consciousness is a measure of a system's complexity and how interconnected it is. The more integrated the information, the more conscious the system. It even tries to give this a mathematical value, called phi. But here's the catch. It describes a structure, but it still can't explain why that structure should feel like anything from the inside. That explanatory gap, still wide open. All right, next up in our lineup is the global workspace theory. This one uses a really powerful analogy to get its main idea across. You know, this theory is brilliant because it explains the function of consciousness, what it's for. GWT says that whatever's in the spotlight of our attention gets broadcast across the whole brain, making it available for complex stuff like planning or talking. It's a fantastic model for what consciousness does. But, and you can probably guess where this is going, it still stumbles on the hard problem. Why does being in that spotlight have to feel like anything? It explains the job, not the raw experience.
Okay, so beyond our main suspects, the investigation starts to get, well, a little weird. There are some truly radical theories out there, ideas that force us to question our most basic assumptions about reality itself.
Take panpsychoism, for example. It suggests that maybe consciousness isn't special to brains at all, but is a fundamental feature of matter itself, just like mass or electrical charge. Others think the answer lies in the super bizarre world of quantum mechanics. Now, both of these ideas are highly controversial, for sure, but they show just how far thinkers are willing to go to crack this case. So, after looking at the evidence and interrogating the main suspects, where does our investigation leave us? What's the current state of the case file? And just when you think you've got a handle on the clues, a new player enters the scene: advanced AI. We're talking about machines that can talk, create art, and reason in ways that seem, well, uncannily human. And this forces us to ask a really tough question. Could we build a conscious mind? Well, the current consensus among most scientists is probably not. You see, even the most sophisticated AI is an expert at mimicking understanding. It's a master of syntax, the rules of language. It can predict the next word in a sentence with incredible accuracy. But there's no evidence it has any genuine semantics, any real meaning or feeling behind the words. It processes, but it doesn't feel. And so, after reviewing all the evidence, the verdict is pretty clear. The case of consciousness remains wide open. We have made incredible progress in mapping the brain and its functions, but we're still just observing the shadows on the cave wall. The fire that's casting them, that inner spark of actual experience, is still hidden from our view. And maybe that's the ultimate clue, right? Perhaps the reason this mystery is so hard to solve is that we're using the wrong tools, or maybe even asking the wrong questions. Solving it might not just fill a gap in our knowledge of biology, it could fundamentally change our view of the entire universe and our place in it. The investigation continues.